Are you ready to untangle from your past, recover from heartbreak, and revive your life? This is Soul CPR with your host, Ann Papayoti. We've all had soul-crushing experiences and lost ourselves in our pain, but there is a way out. On this podcast, Amazon best-selling author, award-winning life coach, and advice columnist Ann Papayoti helps us navigate the path from heartbreak to healing. So now, please welcome the host of Soul CPR, Ann Papayoti.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in today. I hope that you're well and that you're as eager to listen to and learn from today's guest as I am. You know, we've talked about the mind-body connection in previous episodes, but today will be somewhat different. I'm excited about the work she's doing, and I'm inspired by her personal journey. Now, she's one of many whom I've met and guided, mentored through divorce, but not all will do the work to fully transform their lives. But she certainly has. And, you know, anytime that I see an image of a bright, beautiful butterfly, I think of her. Monica Karam is now a coach herself, and she specializes in trauma and transformation. She helps people transform their lives from the inside out. She's also an energy healer, and she's actually developed her own modality to clear trauma from the body. Monica, welcome to the show.
Hi, Anne. Oh, you got me
Hi.
emotional. I just thought we just started. I got emotional.
And you've got on butterfly blouse, I
Yeah,
see.
I actually wore a butterfly top for you.
Oh, that's wonderful. I don't know if you remember my office in Montreal. I had a large butterfly painting on the wall, but I thought of that. I remember when I bought that and hung it in
Yeah.
my office. I thought of you. Well, as I mentioned, you were someone I met because you were going through divorce. In fact, we met in one of my support groups there at the West Island Women's Center in Montreal. How many years ago was that now, would you say?
11.
Oh, wow, 11 years
11
ago.
years ago. Because I had just moved, right? I moved to Canada and it was, yeah, a few months in.
Wow. Well, one of the things I remember about you back then was that you cried a lot.
I still cry a lot, so I hope I don't
You cried
cry.
a lot, and I always had tissues on the table and then Hershey's Hugs and Kisses candy. So anyway, I remember that. I also remember that you took a lot of notes.
I still take a lot of notes. I always have a paper and pen in my hand.
And I remember that often you would ask me to repeat what I said, and I often could not remember exactly what it was word for word. And and then when you would be in my personal development classes and other people would ask me what I would say, had say she doesn't remember, but this is what she meant because she called on to me.
Oh,
But
wow, I
there's a
don't
difference.
remember that way.
I do. There's a difference between academic teaching and sort of an intuitive guiding. And we'll talk more about that later because that's certainly what something you use and do in your work now. And we'll talk more about that when we get to your work that you do now. But tell us a little bit about that stage of your life. You know, you've moved to Canada and you're facing divorce, and what led you to walk into that room where I was leading a support group.
So, yes, I was in denial. My marriage was ending, and I was in major denial that it's not going to happen. but and then I see a post somewhere. I think I had started going to the women's center, and I saw a post, and it said that you were leading this divorce separation class. So I called a friend and I said, "You go, you tell me what it's like because I'm not going into a class to let people know what's going on in my life. So you do it and give me notes." And then it got really bad. I was in a bad place and I was like, I might have to go to this class. And that's when I walked in. And I think it was the first time ever that I was able to share because I'm a very private person. I talk a lot. I always talk to share to help others, but never when it has to do with my own personal life or personal journey. So this class, you asked us, so what's going on? And I was like, huh, what is going on? And I think it was the first time that I actually said out loud what was going on. And
Yeah.
obviously I cried.
Yes, I remember that. I invested more in
Actually, I
tissues.
think it's the first time I cried. I don't didn't cry before. So it was probably the
Oh,
first
wow.
time that yeah, I don't didn't used to cry. Now the waterworks have come out, but for years I didn't cry. So this was the first time I expressed myself and cried because it hit me
Wow.
what was actually
It-
going on.
So let's backtrack a little bit because let's let the audience know. So you moved to Canada from where? And
From
let's talk
Dubai.
about from Dubai, but you're not even from Dubai. You're
I'm
from
from
Lebanon.
Lebanon, yes. So
And
I
you'd
had
also
lived
lived in
in,
England, right?
sorry?
You'd also lived in England. So lots of
Yeah,
moving in your
I've traveled a lot and lived in different countries. And if you talk about my life, I know it per country. So you divide the country, I know what happened in my life. If I tell you, oh, I lived here, okay, I remember. I lived here. So it's when you ask me chronologically, I just say countries because I
Yes.
just put down the countries I remember. But yes, I had been
Yeah.
living in Dubai for 15 years, and suddenly my ex-husband says we are moving. Not suddenly, it was a 2 3 year journey to move here, and I was in denial as usual, that I'm not moving to Canada. I don't do cold, and there's no way I will be living in the coldest country in the world with snow and all that. So in denial again. So that was a pattern of mine. I was always in denial. Something I didn't want to hear, I
Mhm.
ignored.
Okay. But you ended up in Canada, and
Yes.
then your husband is now asking for a divorce. And
Yes,
was this
a few
and this
months
was
in.
2 months in? That's a lot of
A few
change.
months in. I don't think it was, I don't remember how many months in, but yes. So I had never, and I have 3 kids. Let's
Yes.
talk about, and I had never really, how can I say, I lived a comfortable life
Mhm.
outside of here. I had help. It was different. I always call myself Cinderella, who became the cleaning lady, and the one before. You know how people transform? I transformed the other way around.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah, I moved here. I didn't know anybody. It was a shock to my system. Never seen snow before. Never had to look after fully my kids. Suddenly was like this marriage is ending. Couldn't
Mhm.
tell my parents for a year. I didn't tell my parents because this is not a thing that happens in our country. Like, this is like a failure. This cannot
Yeah.
happen. So I had to deal with all this
Mhm.
on my own, and I didn't know how to, and I didn't have friends. So that's where the journey started. I was like, what am I going to do here?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a lot of trauma. You're in grief. Obviously, the shock, the denial, this pattern that you've had in your life. Was this the first trauma in your life?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, my
So,
grandmother
and a
died when
lot
I was younger, but nothing so traumatic that, like, not that much. I was sheltered, let's just say, until
okay,
those events afterwards.
sheltered, and then, like you said, so you're living the Cinderella princess side of life until all of a sudden now you're back to the beginning of becoming the you, as you said, the now you're the house cleaner basically. You're the one having to figure out how to do everything. You've never kept your children on your own. You've
No,
lived kind of in the lap of luxury, so to
for sure.
speak. And now you're like, I'm going to have to go back into the workplace. And I remember, I believe you had maybe 3 years before you were going to have to
Yes.
go to work. But I remember these types of things, which were
And
common
let's
to
just remember,
women.
I'm in my 40s now. Okay. That
Yeah,
at that time, I was just turned 40, I think, or 41. So you're talking about someone who is really a lot of the stuff that people probably in the Western world do at 18, 19, 20. I had to figure out at 40.
right. at midlife. And this is something I often we saw often in Canada, people coming from cultures similar to yours. The Lebanon was a common one that we would see in Canada when there was like a midlife crisis, awakening, something in where most often the men would suddenly say, I'm away from those boundaries of culture. I'm going to now live my life for me. And they let go of everything and everyone tied to it, starting with marriage,
And also,
sometimes
don't
career.
forget, we were brought up in most of the world where I lived in Lebanon, Dubai. We had people around us. We had community. So you
Yes.
always had people. So you never ever really got to know whoever you're with. Well, like there was never a time that we didn't have someone to do this, someone here, a mother here, a grandmother here, an aunt here, a friend here. Like it was built on community.
Yeah.
So I come here to a very individualistic
Hmm.
environment,
Hmm.
which again was a shell shock because when you're a person who's extremely social
Hmm.
and is used to having people around and people are taken away from you, and you're like, how am I? I'm not an introvert. I've never been, but I've had to become one, and I've had to become my own best friend, and I've had to have myself as conversation because that is a big one for people who come from communities like mine, who community is everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
People call you all the time in other countries. Here, the phone doesn't ring. Like, there's a lot that comes with moving to a new country.
Right. And trying to create that community, which when you're hiding from your truth, like you said, you weren't even sharing this because of the judgment, that sense of failure that was deemed unacceptable, because this doesn't happen in our culture. So all of that, you're creating more and more isolation for yourself, I would assume.
Yeah.
And yes, and more trauma, self-inflicted trauma, right? So all of this is now being held inside, other than when your eyes finally started to leak and tear up and cry. And now that you're reminding me, that I do remember that you came to support someone else because you thought she needed the support group, and then you realized you needed it for
Probably.
yourself.
That's always the way I do it. I come in to help others, and I end up being the one.
Being the one that finds the help. Something else that came to mind about that time that I think others would relate to, that since this is Soul CPR, healing out loud, and you're talking about that was the first time you spoke things out loud, and it was in this group, and I think you found safety in that group and security in that group, and so you did begin to share out loud. One thing you were living that a lot of people find they live today because of economic circumstances is that they live in the same home with the person they're going
Oh
through
yes,
divorce with. So you were one of the first people that I helped guide through divorce who was in that circumstance to live in the same home. And then I recall he even began dating while you were still in the same
yeah.
home.
But
And
I
I,
don't want to go into
yeah,
anything to do with my.
but letting
It's
people
his
know
personal.
that I
Yes,
just that is that aids and embeds trauma.
yes, but
For
it was also very convenient at the time because we had
Mhm.
just moved to the country and it
Yes,
was also children involved here. So we had to do it very slowly and securely and safety wise. So imagine your children are just leaving everything they know in another country and then moving to a new home and then also that trauma. So
yes,
it had to be done very smoothly where we each lived in the same house, still worked together with the children and then separate. So we had to give them a stable home first. You know, you can't just
yeah,
change the whole environment on them and the divorce and so that was I believe it was a very important thing because it gave me time to accept what was going on. And it
hmm
also gave my children time to feel safe until they were able to move to the next.
to the
So
next.
it really depend on, like, people who are living together here who've lived all their lives is very different to someone who's coming from a new country who already feels unsafe. To be
Yeah,
thrown in the deep end and having to find your own home and your own everything and not feel a stability.
I
So
love
I'm glad
that.
that it was a stable environment for my children and for
Yeah,
me, and to give me time to find myself to move to the next chapter. So I think it was a great thing at the time.
I
It
love
wasn't
that word,
easy, but
safe. And I love that you were putting your children first. And what I want the listeners to glean from this was that you were, despite the shell shock you were basically in, and in every way, from the move, from the request of divorce, that you were still able to um, put your emotions aside and deal with what I call the business of divorce in a different way, which involves division of property and these types of things, and making the decisions about provisioning and living arrangements. And you were able to do that, and ultimately it was the best decision for your children and even for you as you were finding your way again. It's time for our first break, but when we come back, Monica, I would
okay.
like to start talking about how you recognized how the trauma was affecting you in your body and how
Mhm.
you started then to heal yourself from that. So,
Okay.
listeners, don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Mike Zoric, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zoric, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zoric has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm speaking to my friend, Monica Karam, who is a trauma and transformation coach. And we were talking about what was her first big trauma, her first recognizable trauma that she started realizing and recognizing there had been some patterns in her life. But Monica, my next question to you is how did you recognize trauma resonating in your body, perhaps, that led you
Okay.
on this journey of self healing?
So let me start by telling you I had no idea what this trauma thing was. Okay. Or
Yes.
I like it wasn't even in my radius or in my sphere what
Yeah.
trauma was. Okay. But when I went to see a social worker, and she was seeing all these symptoms in me, that I was in overwhelm, I was in shock. How am I going to cope with paying bills? Not even just that, like, I never done taxes before. Like, in other countries we don't do taxes. It's not a thing, so there was so many things that were like new. It was like I was thrown in the deep end in a place that I didn't know how to navigate. So the woman says, "You have PTSD." I'm like, interesting. Isn't PTSD about veterans? And this is all I knew at the time. She said, so for those who don't know what PTSD means, it means post traumatic stress disorder, which means something that has happened to you that has caused stress in your body.
Okay.
Okay, but it could be everybody. It's how one event could not affect someone else, but it could affect you in a way that leaves a lasting effect on your body.
Okay.
So I go, I don't understand. And I start, you know me, my paper and pen and my research, and I'm like, cannot be that I have something called PTSD. But in my mind, it felt like she's right. But then I thought, but I'm Lebanese. Shouldn't I have PTSD from being Lebanese and war and all this stuff? But you see, that's familiar to me. So
Mm.
that's not PTSD. Anything that is, so if you're Lebanese and you grew up in most of the war and whatever, it's your home, it's your familiarity. It's not a trauma for you unless you've experienced the bombings and whatever, and that is a trauma to you. Okay. But for me, being thrown in a deep end in a country where it's unfamiliar, it's unsafe, that is a trauma. Being
So,
used to having a husband and not knowing, relying on the husband, and suddenly it being taken away from you, that's a trauma. Because now you're like, what? How am I going to do this?
mhm.
Being in a country where it's unknown and you have no friends and nothing, that's a trauma. Because you're like, I know my mom, I can call her. I don't know what, I don't know people here. So again, anywhere where you feel unsafe, where something's happened to you, where it makes you feel unsafe or your body reacts, that is a trauma.
Okay. So the emotional thought about unsafe, unfamiliar creates unsafe, then that creates the sensation in the body. This is all linked, mind body connection. This
Exactly.
all together equals PTSD, is what we're saying.
Yes.
What you're saying.
So
Okay, great.
PTSD, in my opinion, is a pile up of trauma.
A pile up of trauma. Okay.
Okay. So one thing that's happened to you might not cause this, but if you think about it as a bedroom of clutter, and
Okay.
you think about all the things that have happened to you in your life. So
Hmm.
something as a little kid stays in your body as trauma. And now over the years, if you don't clear it out, let's say you failed in grade 2.
Yes.
Well, now you have failure in your subconscious and in your body. So
Okay.
you're expecting to fail
Hmm.
because there is a memory that stays in the body. There's a book that says the body keeps the score. It stays. So unless you clear it from the root, and if we're really going very deep, you inherit trauma.
Okay.
The
So
pregnant
I
mother
love the
could give whatever, alcoholism, whatever trauma can be inherited.
mhm. I love the image of the room. Like, all right, I put in my room failing second grade, and
Hmm.
then I got bullied in third grade, so I stuffed that in the room, and then I just keep stuffing all these things in the
Exactly.
room that pile
Yes.
on. So
And if
that
you want to think about it as a room, and it's also a computer program, so that's your subconscious.
okay,
So
so
if you
that's the
think about the
subconscious.
room as pile up
Okay, all
of
right.
stuff you have never cleared.
So this your social worker recognized this pile up on you that likely started from these moves in your life, this one to Canada, where your whole life turned upside down. Everything you thought to
Yes, yes,
be true
turned
wasn't
upside
true.
down.
And you're in this country where you didn't fit in, and you're keeping secrets from the people who could have supported you because you feared the judgment and the failure and blah, blah, blah. So this pile on in your mental operating facility up here, the programs we run was just on overload and overwhelm and all of this stuff. And she recognized that this was what was happening to you. What were you feeling in your body? What was the
So now,
response
so
in your body?
let's do it left right. So
Okay.
on the mental frame, I was like overwhelmed. Now
Yes.
on the physical frame,
Yes.
I was bleeding.
Oh.
I had hemorrhaged for 2 months, and then also I had issues with my breast and all this stuff. So
Okay.
I was like, This is happening here. This woman is having a PTSD. Okay, sounds interesting. Let me look it up. On the other hand, my health was bad. And now, in the meantime, a friend of mine in Dubai goes, Monica, you should go see an energy healer. Now, I
Okay.
had never, again, like PTSD, never heard of energy healing. But I had reached a stage where it was like, listen, this bleeding, I've gone to gynecologists, nothing's happening.
Mhm.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. I went Google energy healer, West Island, and I found Karen. And I went the first time and I was like, this is weird, but something feels right about this.
Okay.
And then I didn't go again. But when I started bleeding, I had a feeling she was going to help me.
Okay.
I didn't know why, but I had a feeling. And that's a lot of my journey was as you clear trauma, you start hearing your intuition
Okay.
because your intuition is your key to everything because it tells you what feels right, what doesn't feel right. So I
Mhm.
went to Karen and I'll never forget this. She goes, you need to cut the cord with your ex-husband. Cut the cord. Fine, you do you. Whatever cutting this cord means, I'm in. And she did some energy work. And I'll never forget. I felt it. I felt the energy leave my body that wasn't mine, and I got my energy back. And
Beautiful.
my bleeding stopped the same day.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I was like fascinating between PTSD here and energy work that what was really happening in my body was that my I was dealing with everything. This is very important for women to know. We're dealing with everything logically and we haven't dealt with our emotions.
Mhm.
So our body cries. The body cries in the female areas
Okay.
because it's grieving the end of a marriage, grieving the end of whatever it is. Women, we take it in our breast. Breast is about self-care. So we
Okay.
overgive. Women who overgive usually have breast issues.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the bleeding. So I saw the link. And then I went to a TEDx talk where the woman confirmed it.
Okay.
Exactly that. A doctor confirmed that women, we bleed from these areas. So when we
And what?
don't express our emotions and
Mhm.
don't feel, or some people have had sexual trauma and all this, it all gets stored in these two areas.
And what about men who don't express
Men,
their emotions?
they're male manly. A lot of men have issues with erectile dysfunction, and it gets stored there. And
Okay.
men, it's the heart.
And men in the heart. Okay.
Yes, because
Mm.
they don't do the feeling part, right? So they don't express themselves. It piles up. Think about each part of the body as a pile up uh, so trauma is like a bedroom full. If you don't release it and clean it out, it piles up where it causes disease.
Okay. Okay. So someone who's done the work and cleaned out, then the next trauma comes, then they clean that one out and they go. So that might be an example of where I had been when I met you and had cleaned out my divorce untethered from my ex, those kinds of things. This might be why I do well in that area of my life and helping others through that. That part of me is cleared and untethered. When something new comes up, it's easier for me to clean out because it's not a big pile up anymore
Yeah. So
because I
that's
cleaned
it.
up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, that makes
And
sense to
and
me.
and to be the best part of it, instead of us calling it post-traumatic stress disorder, the new
Right.
word is post-traumatic growth. Because
Post.
most of us, you and I included, have used our trauma to
Hmm.
heal and help others. So
Right.
that's a growth. So when you
Hmm.
heal your trauma, there's a growth that happens.
Hmm.
And it's like a pile up of years because if you're going to really get to it, you're going to go to your childhood because the
Hmm.
patterns that you didn't heal in your childhood come out and you end up in all these relationships. So
Hmm.
that's where my journey started and went. So post traumatic stress disorder, what does this mean? I discovered what trauma means and I was like, okay, interesting. Then energy work, Plus, I went to a class called Joy Inspiration, which taught me about intuition and everything to do with reading oracle cards and getting my messages. So
Hmm.
the three things together, healing my intuition, getting my healing my body, healing my intuition, and clearing my limiting beliefs,
Hmm.
I put them together and I started. So what happened, and the book that we'll talk about afterwards, I started looking at what is the underlying meaning to each part of my body and why.
Hmm.
And I started doing that inner work.
Hmm. Beautiful.
So I
Beautiful.
stopped putting things under the carpet and denying them. I started going, okay, give it. Come on, what's up here? And then I started searching for people who can give me answers. And I started seeing different practitioners, learning. As I was doing the sessions, I was learning and
Mm-hmm.
taking notes, what works here, what doesn't work here. So it was like a mixture of a formula I was discovering as
I
I
know.
was.
So can trauma get stuck in various places in the body, depending on what kind of trauma it is? So it can be stuck anywhere. Okay. And
It
trapped
can be
until,
anywhere in the body. And just for a reference, our body is divided into two parts, masculine, feminine. Our
okay.
right side is the masculine, and
Hmm.
the left side is the feminine. And we all have masculine, feminine.
Okay.
So whenever you have issues, in summary, whenever you have issues on your right side, it's about work. It's about going, giving, doing. And
Okay.
whenever you have issues on your left side, it's your feminine side, which is about slowing down. It's literally our body is always talking to us,
Hmm.
telling us this should be a communication between you and your body. If your back is hurting you, or if you should talk to it. What's up? What's going on? Because the left side, and a lot of men have this problem, and a lot of women, we're brought up to be in our masculine, go, be, produce, act, whatever. We're not used to tapping into our intuition, slowing down, receiving.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
this is where many people have problems on the left side of their body.
Interesting. My last surgery was on my left knee. Anyway,
Interesting.
this is a good time for us to take our
Yeah.
second commercial break. And when we come back, we'll have more with Monica and releasing trauma from the body. And we may even do a little demonstration on that. So don't go far, and we'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live to Dare to Soar, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network, and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ann Papayotti, and today we are talking to Monica Karam, my friend and colleague in the coaching world. She specializes in trauma and transformation, and I've gotten a whole new understanding on PTSD today. Thank you, Monica, for that.
You're
Makes a lot
welcome.
of sense. I've got these visuals of the kind of the pile up in the mind, in the subconscious, which then is affecting the body, which then creates all these ailments. So many people never really fully heal unless they find the right help for that. So with that in mind, um, Monica, talk to me. So it sounds like you went on this mission to kind of heal yourself, and in so doing, you studied, you learned, and at the same time, you were having to get back into the workforce because you'd gone through divorce. And I know from my personal experience with you, you were trying to find your calling. And so, which came first? Because I know when you were looking at coaching, was it coaching or energy
Coaching.
healing? What did you look at
Coaching
first?
came first. So
Coaching.
as I started to heal, I was like, okay, I'm going to become a coach. I'm going to study coaching because I was like, I need to help people. I don't want people to go through the hell that I went through. So
Mhm.
I have part of the formula. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to coach people now.
Yeah.
But so I started coaching. But
Yeah.
then I started realizing that while I was coaching people, I was getting all these messages in my head for
Yeah.
people. And it was very interesting. They would come to me for something. Sometimes they would come for readings, a reading or a coaching session. And something would happen. I would get a message asking about sexual trauma. It's like I would get a message like it pinpointed the wound.
Mm.
But I was like, I don't know these people. How can I ask them this question? But uh, most people who've worked with me know that I'm very blunt and straight to the point. But I always say, listen, I'm getting a message, so you can take it or you cannot take it. So I'm going to mention. And
Yeah.
it was very interesting because each time I would get the message that they
Mm.
needed, and it started becoming a habit. So that's where trauma came in because I realized that it had nothing to do with my work, right? I had done this trauma thing and whatever. But as I was working, one in four of my clients had sexual trauma.
Wow.
One, there was addiction, that's the things, or something with their child.
Hmm.
A lot had something with their child. And it would come to me. So I was like, do I trust this voice? I don't know what this voice is, but it seemed to be accurate each session. And by the third session, I was like, whatever, this is what I'm getting.
Let it go.
Where have you had this?
Trust
If
it.
not,
Yeah.
let's go to another subject. So this is how it started. It started with just coaching. But then the messages started coming in because remember, I had done a lot of trauma work. When you do trauma work, we all have intuition, we all have psychic abilities. So when it's cluttered, you can't hear it. So now
Mhm.
here I was with all these messages, and I'm like, I cannot help people with sexual trauma if I haven't studied it. So I went and studied it to
Mhm.
get myself a certificate in sexual trauma.
Yes. Very good.
And
Beautiful.
this is how it started. So then I started seeing, I was like, okay, I don't know, it was all intuitively downloaded, let's just say,
Hmm. Hmm.
because that's where my the modality came. That's where I was like, okay, this is how we clear energy. And I was like, okay, I'm just doing it, and people are like, this is working. So I'm like, okay. And as I went on and on, I studied, I learned. You know, the more you work with people, the more you see where you need to hone your craft here, hone it here, what's up here. And I just kept listening to my intuition,
Hmm.
trusting my intuition,
Yes.
saying,
Yes.
listen, I don't know if this is, please feel safe. We're in a safe space, but this is what I'm getting. Did something happen to your child? Did this happen to whatever? And then in the cards, I would see visuals. I could see the whole story.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is so interesting. I was as excited as they were in the session. So I
Yeah.
just kept trusting my intuition and kept learning and kept studying and found this fascinating.
Hmm. Mm.
And I
I
was
love it.
seeing healing happen. And I was like, okay, this is very good.
Yeah. So it goes back to your having cleared yours so that you could receive. And that's what I talk about often is that when we hold on to something, we're not open to receive. So it sounds like the same thing when we're holding on to this emotional clutter, we're not open to receive our gifts. And our gifts, as you said, we all have, call it psychic ability, call it
Call it whatever
intuition.
you want. Intuition.
You call it whatever you want, and I call it our highest knowing,
So I
our
call it
highest
God too, but like
consciousness. Yeah, like our
everybody
highest.
calls it whatever they want to call it that makes
Right.
it feel comfortable. The thing is,
No.
people who are too much in their mind,
Hmm.
imagine the people that are too much in their mind. Okay, so that's a cluttered mind, right?
Right.
And if we want to talk really about how can intuition come through if your mind is cluttered?
Hmm. Hmm. It can't.
And also, intuition needs to come through the body. And most people are not in their body, so they're not feeling. They're using only their mind. But the real GPS and the real part of the body that knows you well is your GPS, your body, your soul. The other one, if you want to say, it's the mind is an old programming.
Hmm.
It's not the correct. Um, it's not the correct information. It's a computer system in your mind that is was programmed by your parents, by your society, by trauma that's happened to you. So if you're
Hmm.
taking your mind as the correct, you have a distorted information. The
Hmm.
soul, the body, is the one that knows you best, knows you as a soul. The other one is a programming. If you have a lot of trauma, then if you're using your mind, it's giving you the wrong information. Is what I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
It's all your experiences, all your everything you've observed, even if it wasn't you who went through it, but you saw someone else go through it. And like you
It's all
said, culture,
sport.
religion, anybody who influenced you, parents, all of that, anybody that was part of your upbringing, teachers, coaches, all of that along the way, absolutely is part of that mental programming that is running that for you right now. And that's where we have limited beliefs and all of that, that, as you mentioned earlier, had to be cleared for you. But that intuitive guiding comes once we can clear all that, and that's what we all are capable of receiving once we clear it. And again, call it
But you
whatever you
also have to trust it. The thing I
want.
see, a lot of people get this gut, but they don't take action.
Yes. And one of my favorite things that I give people to is when they're just testing it. When you have that little voice that says, you know, take take this route today, not that route. And then you didn't listen to it. What happened on the route you took?
Yeah, yeah,
There was
exactly.
a
I
traffic
mean, my
jam.
car
You
takes me wherever
were an
it
hour
wants to, and I
late.
trust it. Yeah,
It's those little things, and you'll go, oh yeah, and then you hear this one, somebody that took that one was had green lights all the way. Those little ways to kind of test it and check it on things that seem inconsequential to anything important, but that's how you kind of play with your intuition and those little nudges that give you guidance along the way. I love that you called it a GPS, because that's
it's
what I
my
call it too.
energy field. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what kind of tools can you share with our audience today for clearing trauma from the body?
So they're so first of all, the most important thing is everybody showers, right? I hope brushes their teeth, does the basics.
Hmm.
You have to clear your energy at the end of the day.
Okay.
It's your energy, it's like dirt. Everywhere you go, the woman who is upset in the supermarket, you've just collected it.
Okay.
So to clear your energy, I'm gonna for the people who won't be able to see me, you have to sit down on the chair and just imagine your feet firmly planted on the ground, and
Hmm.
rub your hands together. So when you rub your hands, you feel
Hmm.
an energy. There is
Yep.
a energy.
Yep.
You feel
Let's
like a
talk.
tingle.
Hmm.
So The simple thing is you take your hands and you clean it off as if you are showering. You clean it off your hair, you clean it off your body,
Okay.
and you cut cords
Wipe
with
it off.
everyone you've seen today.
Okay.
That's
So
all. If
visualize
you
that.
do
So
this every
visualizing
day,
cutting cords. Anyone who's remained in your thoughts, the woman who was aggravated in front of you in line, anybody,
fine.
if it was good energy, do you want to keep it?
Yes,
Like someone who was
if you
compassionate.
want to, yes, if you want to. But the thing is, you can return energy to people and give yours back. Because what happens all day, you're losing energy, you're leaking energy. That
Okay.
person that upset you at work, and even at work, you have to cut ties with your clients, right? Like, because otherwise you're connected to them.
Oh yeah, I'm very good at that. I've learned to ground
I had
myself
to learn.
before and then to clear myself after. Um,
But that's it.
because
It's
it's heavy
simple
work.
things.
A lot of
But
grief. Yeah.
let's do a little exercise so that
Okay.
people can see how trauma stays in the body. It's not some severe trauma. Like, so you either think of something that is painful in your body, or someone from your past that hurt you or you don't speak to again or whatever. I just want to show how you don't have to tell me who it is. You don't. I just want to show to people that that person might still be stuck in your energy field.
Hmm.
So just think of anyone.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be very traumatic. Could be a friend that you haven't spoken to in a while because she said something. I don't know, whatever, anything.
Okay. Let
Or
me
it could be
think.
just a
So,
pain in your
okay,
body.
I'm gonna think of something. There is something that I can
Okay.
think of,
Okay.
an estrangement. It's like, so let
Okay.
me think of that. And you want
Think
me to
of that,
where
but
it
don't
shows
think
up in the
about it.
family? I mean,
Feel it. Feel it.
where it shows up in my body. Feel it. Okay.
Tell me where in your body, when you think of that person, do you have a pain?
Hmm. I, I, I think I've released this, but so I'm not really feeling a specific thing.
Nothing at all.
Let me,
Okay.
not feeling anything in
You
my
are
body
feeling
right now.
something in your shoulder because you keep
I was feeling
moving it.
something earlier in my shoulder. So let's go with that. Let's
Okay.
go with the
So
shoulder.
let's just say it's the shoulder. Do you feel it in
Okay.
the right shoulder or the left shoulder or both?
Left. It's
Left.
left for sure.
Okay. So the left is a heavy weight on your shoulder inside. It hurts. It's a painful experience that happens. So what you
Okay.
would do is you would imagine you are carrying a handbag because it's a shoulder,
Okay.
right? It's a heavy burden that you're carrying. So you want to imagine that you're taking off the handbag and dropping it on the floor.
Okay. Done.
Okay. That's as simple as how we clear trauma.
Okay.
The thing is, we are
Got
not
it.
conscious that all these people are stuck in certain areas of
Okay.
our body. So, closing your eyes, rubbing your hands,
Mm-hmm.
thinking of the person or the pain. Let's say it's in your shoulder, or
Mm-hmm.
in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's say it's in your neck. Who's a pain in your neck?
Mm-hmm.
And then you go from there. Release the person from your neck, literally, take him out or her.
And remove them. Okay.
It doesn't need the story and therapy and years. It
Mm-hmm.
just needs a cleanup.
Just needs to clean out. I love that. I think that's how promising is that for people who've been talking about it in talk therapy for
You are manifesting it
years,
over and
right?
over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, reliving the trauma by talking about it or carrying the story and holding it in and not talking about it. So being able to release it and finding, these easy ways and recognizing that it is energy. And I do work with energy academically, and then I do the intuitive guiding. And I love how then you take it to that level of the actual body work. And I really respect that and love that, Monica. And I
Okay.
hope that people listening today can recognize that this is something that they can do for themselves, and that sometimes some of these ailments and even the underlying cause of some diseases can come from this emotional clutter that has been stored way too long, right? And
I've
it's
seen
showing up.
addiction in a
Yeah,
few days stop because people have gotten to the root of it.
yeah, yeah,
Because it's not about most of the things are the pain you are suffering from a story that you told yourself or something that's actually happened, like a
yes,
real, and clearing it out energetically and from the mind. It's like you delete a movie.
yeah. And
You
then
don't watch the movie over again and over again.
so then we're taking control back of our lives and really our futures and our outcomes, right?
Exactly.
And it's a form of letting go. I say the lesson is always in letting go, no matter what it is that's going on in life. Well, Monica,
Exactly.
this is a great time for us to take our final break, and when we come back, we're going to let people know how they can get in touch with you and give our key takeaways from today's
Okay.
episode.
All right. Sounds good.
We'll be back. So don't go far. We'll be back with more Soul CPR.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Mike Zorich, a three-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. He was a six-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2/3, and 2/4. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorich, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorich has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
Hi there, welcome back. And we're in this closing segment of today's show. I could honestly talk to Monica for hours, and we have done that before. We have talked for hours before. Um,
Definitely.
Monica, I appreciate your being here. I really do have a whole new
Thank you for
understanding
having me.
of PTSD, and I love the PT growth. I'm going to hold on to that because, just because we get through, certain level of trauma doesn't mean the next thing's not going to happen, but it's just that we bounce back quicker. And when we learn tools like you've shared today to be able to carry forward, we can continue to move forward with some kind of level of security that we will get through it and we will recover and we don't have to become sick because of it. So, Monica, if you have a key takeaway from today's show that you'd like to leave the audience with, what would it be?
Just listen to your body. When your body is talking to you, when you're in pain, when something is hurting, it's like a best friend is talking to you and saying, I need you to pay attention.
Mm, I
Pay
love that.
attention. Get your books out. Get your Heal Your Body by Louise Hay, The
I love
Secret Language of the Body, and just understand, learn the language your body is trying to talk to you
that. Yeah. And
because it's trying to talk to you.
the secret language of the body is by whom? In
The
this.
Secret Language, Ina Segal.
Okay. Yeah. And
And then
that's.
Heal Your Body is like a dictionary with very small, it'll tell you, let's say, I don't know, the knee problem. Look, it opened up at knee problem.
Oh, perfect.
Stubborn ego and pride, inability to bend.
Yeah. Well,
Fear,
I don't know.
inflexibility, won't give in.
There you
Okay,
go.
so
I am a goat, as in a Capricorn, so it makes perfect
okay,
sense. Um,
so that's it. Just talk to your body. It's trying
yes,
to give you the information. It
there you go.
helps,
These
but
these
it's
are
emotions that it needs you to heal.
the emotions that need to heal. So I love that as a takeaway, and those are resources Monica has shared. And I'm going to ask my intern Chris if he has a takeaway. He's been in the room with me and listening
Ah,
to today's show. So this is my son Chris. Monica, you've not met him before.
hi,
There you go.
Chris. How are you?
I'm
It's
good. How
been
are
a
you?
long time. I remember you as a kid.
Okay. So what's your takeaway today?
Don't bottle up your emotions and express yourself healthily.
Okay, don't ball up your
And
emotions, express yourself healthily. I think that
and
might
just a
be,
quick one
the
for
biggest
Chris. The best way to express your emotions, art,
art.
painting, and writing. And the best thing you can do is express everything in writing and then take your piece of paper and pen and throw it away. So it's like you're decluttering your emotions.
Ooh.
Awesome. So
Perfect.
there's another tool that
Yeah,
Monica
I use
just
that all the time.
art and writing, and then but don't tear up the art, right? Do you keep the art or you just tear up the writing?
Yeah, the writing, just write, and then tear up the page. Because again, remember anything physical, it has to come out of the body. So
Okay.
writing with a paper and pen is physical. It declutters.
Perfect. All right, Monica, thank you for sharing those tools and resources. And how can people get in touch with you and find you on social media?
So most of the social media platforms in my name, Monica Karam. On
Mhm.
YouTube, it's Monica Karam Life Coach.
Perfect. So we will have those all in the show notes. And I don't know, Dan, if you've got the YouTube that you can stick on screen if you can. Um, but Monica, thank you so much for being such a wonderful guest today. We appreciate
Thank you for
your
having me.
your wisdom with us. And I thank our loyal listeners. And if you're new to the show, we're glad you found us today. So, as we conclude this episode of Soul CPR Healing Out Loud, please remember that healing is not a linear journey. It is a process of profound transformation and a lot of letting go. So, if today's stories resonated with you, please, if you would, share this podcast with those that you think may need a lifeline of their own. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts. And you can connect with me on my website at skyviewcoaching.com. Thank you, Dan. There's my QR code. You can scan it and go straight there. You can find my book, The Gift of Shift, from the website. And you can find me at Ann Papayotti on all those social media websites, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. Let me know your thoughts, your stories, and the topics you'd like to explore in future episodes, and I'll put Chris to work looking them up. And until next time, may you find strength in your vulnerability and courage in your journey. Thank you for listening. Breathe deeply, love openly, and live soulfully. Good day.
This has been Soul CPR with host Ann Papayotti. Breathe life back into your spirit with each episode, where she and special guests explore the relationships that hurt us and discover that healing can only begin with you. Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.